Every decision you make affects every facet of every other fucking thing. It's too much to deal with almost.
In this video, I'm going to talk about Tony's relationship with a few other characters in the DiMeo family in order to demonstrate how he has to navigate maintaining his power while handling various tensions with individuals within the family.
But it's gotta be hard coming into work every day, looking right into the eyes of the guy you know ordered your brother whacked, and even having to smile.
In the season 2 premiere, Tony has Philly Parisi clipped. Philly is the twin brother of Patsy Parisi. They're both played by the same actor, Dan Grimaldi. Philly's been running his mouth about Tony Soprano, including to Gigi, and his brother, Patsy, knows that his brother was clipped by someone in the DiMeo family on the orders of Tony.
Philip was my kid brother. By 11 minutes.
You got a problem? Let me hear you say it.
I put the grief behind me.
Tell him Patsy needs a refill.
But does he ever really? There are other things that Tony does throughout the series that also don't really please Patsy. Like when he picks Christopher to be acting capo while Polly's in the can.
With Paulie in the can, there's a new acting capo of his crew. It's Chrissy. That's the way certain people want it, and we trust there will be no ill will.
Narrator. There may have been ill will.
So what's the problem?
I don't know. Patsy feels bad. Maybe he was passed over.
Patsy's also not pleased when he learns that Tony sold Caputo's eggs to Jamba Juice.
Jamba Juice. Your boss went and sold a building.
He sold the building. I got a kid in college.
So things end with quite a few questions regarding Tony and Patsy's future relationship or lack thereof. An interesting layer added to Tony and Patsy's relationship toward the end of the series is the fact that Meadow and Patsy's son, Patrick, are now engaged. So not only are Tony and Patsy related by La Cosa Nostra, but they're also soon to be united by marriage.
It's not so silly when you think about it. I'm a top earner now. It's not out of the realm of possibility that I could be the boss of this family one day.
After Vito lost weight, it seems he felt a sense of confidence and power that compelled him to want to move higher up the ladder and even into the position as boss someday.
He is the boss. He can do what he wants.
He mentions this to Eugene and members only, and then feels even stronger about it after Tony gets shot.
Point is, Tony goes, let's face it, somebody's gonna have to step into the breach. I'm a young man. And now, without the weight, I'm a healthy man. With longevity.
It seems like Vito got way too in his head and started to feel invincible. Vito says, now that I've lost the weight, I'm a healthy man with longevity, except for the fact that now that he's lost the weight, he feels confident enough to go out to gay bars to meet other men, but that's what ends up getting him killed and leads to quite a lack in longevity.
Fuck's all that?
Fiber optic cable. High-speed internet access.
I'm on my way to the hospital. Well, that's up to you.
After being attacked by Phil Leotardo and put in the hospital, Tony tells Benny that he's getting a little too old to be beating people up and that it's time he get his own customers. This was a show of appreciation to Benny.
I know how to treat people.
You're a people person, obviously.
I am. And when they're good to me, they get treats. And when they're not, well, I got this severance thing I do. It's a complete break.
Benny gets a bit overconfident himself, so Tony puts him in his place here.
I'm going to tell you this once. It's over. You drop it. And frankly, you should be very happy I'm not going to tax you. I mean, beside the fact you know I grew up with the man, you don't shit where you eat. And you really don't shit where I eat.
Can't even get down to the pork store? Gotta hang around here all day doing nothing? Yesterday was his gout.
The way that Benny remarks, yesterday was his gout, and complaining about having to stay at the safe house, it sounded like someone who's getting pretty antsy, and if it were a normal job, I wouldn't be surprised if Benny had started looking around for new open positions. Larry Barese has been with us from the beginning.
Yeah, and now you got Bloomfield and the union chair.
Well, otherwise you'd fuck me, Larry, but you wouldn't respect me in the morning, would you?
Then he gets arrested at the end of season 1.
Are you Lawrence Barese?
Can you imagine getting a facelift and 1 week later you're in jail? Can you imagine getting a facelift, 1 week later you're in jail? And then in season 5, we see Larry at the table again, even though he's still on house arrest.
Larry, what the fuck are you doing here? I thought you were on house arrest.
Fuck them.
He's not happy with how Tony is handling Tony B and what he sees as Tony protecting his cousins and his family at everyone else's expense.
Give me a fucking break. Of course he knows.
It's Christopher I feel for.
Please, huh? Let me tell you something. Anthony Soprano was very adroit at keeping his family out of the fucking frying pan. Both cousins. The rest of us...
But later on in season 6, Larry does something really helpful for Tony.
Larry told him J.A. was solely responsible for the
death of a certain African-American person. He covered your ass.
So Larry really came through there at the end for Tony. While Albert may have been a parakeet, Larry was no talker when it came to ratting Tony out.
How about you, Albert? You weigh in anytime.
Though Albert actually stood up for Tony too.
All things being equal.
No. Make a move against Tony Soprano. No way.
Now, in contrast, even though Larry could have ratted to try to get something out of it for himself when they asked him who killed Willie Overall, it's likely, though not 100% proven, that Carlo did start cooperating with the government in order to get leniency for his son, Jason, who'd been arrested for selling ecstasy.
That pal of his, the other Jason, already ran into some trouble. Carlos Jason.
He's a mess.
All right. Putting you in charge of all construction business. Replacing Vito.
Tony respected Carlo and put him in charge of all the construction business that Vito had previously overseen before he went MIA. But instead of simply thanking Tony, Carlo started telling him that other guys were going to refuse to work with Vito if he came back. And Carlo wasn't merely acting as a messenger. He told Tony that he agreed with them, basically trying to tell Tony how things were going to go, not remembering that Tony is the one who makes the decisions.
The guys in Vito's crew, they say if he was to come back, they refuse to take orders from him.
Oh, they do?
And I don't disagree.
Because Vito brought in 3 times what you do on construction. Yeah. And I didn't have this fucking problem.
So, if we think about each of these characters that I just discussed, how they feel about Tony Soprano. You take the rats and the guys that have already been killed. What do you end up with? What do you think about the sustainability of the DiMeo family? Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic or any other Sopranos topic.